With the Sega Master System Plus special packs, you get the console, controllers, light gun, 2 games, and either.
The Sega Master System is not internationally renowned as a hugely successful console for Sega. Instead, it found its most appreciative audiences in Europe and South America. But that doesn't mean to say that North America and Japan did not enjoy its wide range of colourful 8-bit games too.
12 rounds of major air-to-ground destruction and arcade classics. Allow me.
Here's 22 of some of the best Sega Master System games that were enjoyed all around the world. We start off the list with perhaps an obvious choice. Sonic the Hedgehog blasted his way onto the Master System with not a direct copy of the Mega Drive and Genesis version, but his own brand new game. Whilst the game shares a lot in common with the original 16-bit version, the Master System and Game Gear versions have their own unique levels and soundtrack and are still huge fun to play. Alex Kidd in Miracle World is another classic Sega Master System title that was also built into earlier versions of the Master System 1 and 2. Alex Kidd in Miracle World is a platformer which sees you punching enemies, overcoming obstacles and playing rounds of Janken, which is typically rock paper scissors between you and me. This game is also considered rare in its cartridge form, due to the game again, like Sonic, being predominantly owned as a system game built in. This is the first of 3 Wonder Boy games for the Master System that have made the list, and we start with the third game in the series, Wonder Boy 3: The Dragon's Trap. This game is considered the best in the series on the system. Wonder Boy 3 is an action-adventure platformer which sees Wonder Boy cursed by Mecha Dragon and is transformed into different creatures throughout the game. The game recently underwent a remaster and appeared on many current-gen systems to great reviews. Shinobi is an 8-bit conversion of the original Sega arcade classic for the Sega Master System. Shinobi is an earlier game in the Master System's life, but it does a fantastic job of recreating the original. The game also includes the shuriken throwing levels, as well as introducing a new life bar system and fighting abilities. This is a great example of how well the Master System could produce scaled-back arcade ports. Phantasy Star is one of Sega legend Yuji Naka's earlier games and is now considered of significant importance in RPG gaming for its characters and blend of using science fiction and medieval fantasy worlds. Phantasy Star is also one of the most successful examples you can find in the RPG genre on any 8-bit system, which proved a real boost for the Sega Master System at the time. The second Wonder Boy game on the list, and it's Wonder Boy in Monsterland. I'm particularly fond of this game as it was one I originally owned for my Master System. Wonder Boy in Monsterland is a wonderful mix of platforming, action-adventure gaming and wonderful visuals and sound. An easy game to pick up and play and keeps you coming back for more. Many argue that Sonic 2 on the Master System is superior to the original game, but is essentially a more refined version of the first Sonic. Again, as with the original, Sonic 2 for the Master System is not a direct port of the Mega Drive Genesis version. The big difference here in terms of story is that Sonic has to rescue Tails as opposed to having him play alongside you defeating Dr. Robotnik. I'm on the fence as to which game is better between this and the original, but they're both highly recommended on the Master System. Streets of Rage on the Master System was always going to be a big ask, but surprisingly a decent enough job has been made with this conversion of the original Mega Drive and Genesis game. Sure, the amazing soundtrack of the original has had to be toned down obviously, as well as the multiplayer option, but Streets of Rage on the Master System certainly did enough to scratch the itch of those not fortunate enough to own the 16-bit version. Ninja Gaiden for the Master System came well after the arcade original and other console ports such as on the NES. Ninja Gaiden provides an excellent platform hack-and-slash experience. Unusually, Ninja Gaiden on the Master System appeared after the Game Gear version, but it does notably improve on that in every respect, making it one of the best-selling games for the year on the system. Another classic arcade conversion for the Master System. R-Type is definitely one of the best 8-bit versions of the game. Whilst the game does suffer some sprite flickering and slowdown in places, it is a very impressive conversion with very little compromised in terms of level design and gameplay. The huge bosses are present along with excellent colour reproduction of all the game's assets. R-Type is a very tough game though, which has huge replay value as a result. The original Wonder Boy is an excellent port for the Master System, which is very close to the arcade original. The game retains all of its original charm and reproduces the original arcade soundtrack really well given the Master System's basic sound chip. This game is a pure side-scrolling platformer. It does not have the adventure elements seen in the later games, but it's still a must-have on the system. Psycho Fox is a game you will see come up on a lot of best of lists for the Master System. You get to play as Psycho Fox and his friends in this classic side-scrolling platformer. The game has more in common with the Mario games on the NES than the likes of Alex Kidd in terms of its design. It's a reasonably challenging game and one that impressed at the time with its colourful fun and visuals. Watch out for the really weird jumping inertia though, making it really difficult to time your jumps. Another arcade conversion here in the form of Golden Axe. This is another game that, whilst the Master System may not have the sheer guts to compete with the Mega Drive and Genesis conversion, it does a stand-up job in terms of what it delivers. Similar to Streets of Rage, there are compromises in what have been made in terms of there being no multiplayer and there's no only a single character to play through the game. Besides these points, Golden Axe is a very enjoyable and impressive conversion. Once again, thanks to Sega's wealth of arcade games, we have another arcade port on the Master System. OutRun managed to retain the spirit of the arcade original, whilst albeit slightly downgraded. The graphics and sound make an excellent transition to the 8-bit system, the Master System proving once again that it could outperform the NES in terms of arcade conversions. First launched on the Mega Drive and Genesis in 1990, the Master System version of Castle of Illusion makes the jump wonderfully. It's colourful, the sprites and artwork are all excellent. It's not the most difficult game, but it gave the Master System owners a happy alternative to the Mega Drive and Genesis original. Released at a time when Michael Jackson was at his peak in popularity, it was hard to find a system without a Michael Jackson game. This version is a clone of the Mega Drive Genesis game, and is another prime example of what the modest Master System can do. Yep, the sound and music lacked the punch of the original Genesis and Mega Drive version, but a decent effort was made to convert the visuals and gameplay down to the Master System here, and it really can't be faulted in that respect. Ghouls''N Ghosts is part of Capcom's well-known side-scrolling platformer franchise. Released on most computers and consoles at the time, the Master System version can certainly hold pride of place as one of the better versions, if not almost certainly the best 8-bit version of the game. All of the gameplay of the arcade is here, but just again scaled back visuals and sound. Another wonderful representation of an arcade game on the Sega Master System. One of the all-time arcade classics was a fairly early release on the Master System. Aside from minor graphical differences and obviously the sound and music, this is as good as you're going to get for an 8-bit arcade conversion. All of the gameplay remains intact and must have been a real exciting moment to pick this up on your Master System back in the 80s. We recommend checking this out purely to check out its arcade authenticity. Another Sega arcade classic. Phantasy Zone found its way onto the Master System not long after its initial release. You take control of a cute little spaceship with wings and feet called Oppa Oppa. The game screams classic Sega arcade design in terms of its look and quirky angle and a classic shooter gameplay. This was one of my earliest memories of the Sega Master System, and it's a must-have for any collector. A Sega Master System exclusive, Penguin Land is a puzzle platform game which sees you play as a penguin who guides eggs to the end of each level by melting and destroying blocks, which will drop the egg to the bottom of each stage. It's a simple but fun game which typically represents the Master System at the time, a definite collector's favourite. Hang On is one of the more well-known Master System games because it was one of the games originally included as a built-in game on the first Master System. Hang On is a very smooth, fast race-against-the-clock motorbike racer. Not visually close to the arcade game, but the Master System adopts a more colourful cartoon-like visual, but still has its roots at its heart in terms of gameplay. Be warned though, it can be a real tricky game, especially on the original Master System controller and its tendency to just explode as soon as you make any contact with any racers or objects. And last but absolutely not least, Cloudmaster is a port of a Taito arcade game which found its way onto several 8-bit systems. It is a side-scrolling shooter which is notoriously difficult. Weirdly enough, you battle a range of quirky enemies such as birdmen, bowls of soup and progressing to beat the end of level bosses. It's all a little bit weird and crazy, but that's what we like about many of these older 8-bit games, isn't it?